Our culture worships speed, yet we have never felt more rushed or less in control. This frantic pace is not a sign of importance, but a source of constant anxiety and poor choices. The ancient Stoics offer a radical alternative. They believed that true power is not demonstrated by how fast you move, but by your ability to move with deliberate slowness. Seneca observed that life is long enough if you know how to use it, and that a single well-spent moment is more valuable than a lifetime of hurried distraction. This video will show you how the Stoic practice of refusing to rush builds unshakable inner strength, delivers superior judgment, and grants a lasting peace that haste can never provide. You will learn to reclaim your time and your mind from the tyranny of urgency. What is one area of your life where you feel the constant pressure to hurry? The first step to mastering your pace is understanding a fundamental Stoic distinction. It is the line drawn between what is truly within your power and what is not. The ancient teacher Epictetus opens his manual for life, the Enchiridion, with this very idea. He states that our own judgments, our impulses, our desires and aversions, in short, our own actions, are within our control. Everything else, from our reputation to our health to the behavior of other people, is not. Rushing is almost always a symptom of blurring this line. It is the frantic energy we expend trying to force an external outcome to conform to our personal timeline. We rush through a project, trying to control a client's approval. We speed through traffic, trying to control the flow of 1,000 other cars. We hurry a conversation, trying to control another person's reaction. In every case, the anxiety and haste come from a futile attempt to command the uncontrollable. Consider a traffic jam. The rushed person white-knuckles the steering wheel, seethes at the clock, and curses the situation. They are pouring all their mental and emotional energy into a reality they cannot change. The Stoic, having internalized this dichotomy, accepts the delay. They cannot control the traffic, but they can control their response. They might choose to listen to an audiobook, use the time for reflection, or simply practice patience. The situation is the same, but the internal experience is worlds apart. The Stoic emerges calm and composed, their power intact. The rushed person arrives drained and agitated, having sacrificed their peace for nothing. Where in your own life do you feel that urgent pressure to hurry? Look closely at that situation and ask yourself, what uncontrollable outcome am I desperately trying to force? When was the last time you truly experienced a single task without mentally already moving to the next? This constant forward leap is the engine of rushing, a thief that steals the present moment and replaces it with anxious anticipation. The Stoics called this anchoring quality prosoch, a mindful attention to the here and now. It is the practice of bringing your full awareness to your current action, your current thought, your current circumstance. Life is not a single grand event to be endured or rushed through. It is a series of present moments, and your power exists only within the one you are occupying right now. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "Remember that each day is a separate life." He was not being morbid. He was offering a profound key to presence. To live each day as if it were your last is not about frantic bucket lists. It is about living it fully and presently, extracting the depth and meaning available in every single hour. Consider the simple act of drinking a morning cup of coffee. The rushed version is a transaction. You gulp it down while scanning your phone, planning your day, and worrying about a meeting. The cup is empty before you even registered its taste. The Stoic approach is to make it an experience. You feel the warmth of the mug in your hands. You notice the rich aroma. You taste the bitter and sweet notes on your tongue. For those 2 minutes, that is your entire world. You are not fighting traffic or deadlines. You are just drinking coffee fully and completely. In that small act, you reclaim a piece of your mind from the tyranny of the future. This is where your power resides, not in the frantic planning for what comes next, but in the full engagement with what is here. I challenge you to choose one routine activity today. It could be washing your hands, walking to your car, or eating a single meal. Perform that activity with your complete and undivided attention. Notice the sensations, the details, the simple reality of the action. When your mind tries to dart ahead, gently guide it back. This is not merely a relaxation technique. It is a fundamental training of your Stoic faculty, a deliberate refusal to let the future kidnap your present. The Stoics had a radical practice for dealing with interruptions. They learned to love them. This principle is known as Amor Fati, the love of one's fate. It goes far beyond merely tolerating a delay or a setback. It is about actively embracing every single thing that happens to you, viewing every obstacle, every detour, and every moment of waiting not as an enemy to your plans, but as the raw material for your growth. The philosopher Nietzsche, who was deeply influenced by the Stoics, captured this spirit perfectly when he wrote of wanting nothing to be different, not in the future, not in the past, not for all eternity. This is not a passive surrender. It is the most active engagement with reality as it truly is, not as you wish it would be. Centuries earlier, the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius was practicing this same idea, writing in his private journal that a blazing fire makes flame and brightness out of everything that is thrown into it. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Think about a project you are leading that hits an unexpected delay. The rushed mind sees only failure, frustration, and a ruined timeline. It fights against the delay, wasting energy on resentment. But the mind practicing Amor Fati asks a different set of questions. What can this extra time allow me to see that I was missing before? How can I use this pause to strengthen a weak part of the plan? Is this obstacle here to teach me a deeper lesson in patience or perseverance? The delay is no longer a thief of your time. It becomes your collaborator, forcing a refinement you would have otherwise skipped. The project that emerges is often stronger, more resilient, and more thoughtful precisely because it was not rushed. So I want you to bring to mind a recent setback, a delay that irritated you. Perhaps a cancelled meeting, a missed connection, or a goal that took longer than you wanted. Now try on the mantle of Amor Fati for a moment. Reframe that event. What if it was not a random piece of bad luck, but a necessary and deliberate part of your path? What hidden gift might it have contained? This shift in perspective is where frustration is alchemized into fuel, and where you stop fighting your life and start building with it. Your greatest power move might be the silent pause you take before you form an opinion. This is the heart of the Stoic Discipline of Assent, a practice that directly attacks the root of our rushed suffering. We do not suffer from the events themselves, but from the snap judgments we stamp onto them the instant they occur. Epictetus laid this out with stunning clarity, teaching that we are disturbed not by events, but by the judgments we make about them. An event is neutral until our mind assigns it a value, a story, a threat. Rushing is the act of skipping this crucial step of evaluation. It is letting the first, loudest, and often most emotional impression become your commander without any review. Think of your mind as a courtroom. An impression arrives like a piece of evidence. The rushed mind immediately bangs the gavel and issues a verdict. Guilty, unfair, catastrophic, the Stoic mind, practicing the discipline of assent, does something radically different. It calls for a recess. it inserts a deliberate pause between the evidence and the verdict. In that space of silence, you can ask the essential questions. Is this impression true? Is it the whole story? Am I interpreting this fairly? Or am I being hijacked by a raw emotion? This is not suppressing your feelings. It is the act of vetting them with your rational faculty, your inner guide. Consider the moment you receive a piece of critical feedback. The initial, unchecked impression might scream that you are being attacked, that your work is not valued, that the person giving it is unfair. The rushed reaction is to defend, to justify, to fire back an email fueled by that heat. But what happens if you insert the pause, you take a breath, you walk away from the keyboard, you allow the initial sting to subside? In the calm that follows, you can evaluate the feedback dispassionately. Is there a single valid point in there, a kernel of truth that could actually help me improve? By refusing to rush to judgment, you transform a potential conflict into a potential lesson. You move from being a reactive participant in a drama to a calm curator of your own growth. The next time you feel that familiar surge of a strong negative emotion, whether it is anger, offense, or anxiety, I encourage you to see it not as a command to act, but as a signal to pause. Do not let the first impression be the final one. Create that small space of silence. In that quiet moment, you are not being passive. You are exercising the ultimate power, the power to choose your response rather than being chosen by your reaction. It is not that we have a short time to live, but that we waste a lot of it. Seneca's words cut directly to the heart of our modern dilemma. We complain that time is scarce, that our days are a frantic rush, while we simultaneously surrender our hours to 1,000 petty distractions. This is the great illusion of busyness. Rushing from task to task creates a feeling of momentum, a sensation of importance, but it often masks a profound emptiness. You can fill a day with activity and still have accomplished nothing of lasting value. In his essay on the shortness of life, Seneca draws a sharp line between being occupied and being truly engaged. He describes people who are constantly in motion, yet their lives are spent in a restless idleness. They are busy, he writes, doing nothing. They are not living their lives, but merely passing through them. When you refuse to rush, you are not being lazy. You are making a conscious choice to reclaim your time from the tyranny of false urgency. You are choosing to invest your moments in what is meaningful rather than squandering them on what is merely noisy. Consider two people with a single free hour. The first person spends that hour in a rushed, distracted state, scrolling endlessly through social media feeds, clicking on headlines, and consuming a stream of fragmented information. When the hour is up, they feel oddly drained and can recall almost nothing of substance. The second person chooses a single, purposeful activity. They might read 20 pages of a profound book, take a long walk without their phone to clarify a difficult problem, or have a deep, uninterrupted conversation with someone they care about. That same hour feels full, rich, and expansive. The time was not shorter for the second person, but their use of it was infinitely deeper. The first person traded an hour of their life for a feeling of hurried emptiness. The second invested it in their growth and peace. The difference is not in the clock, but in the quality of attention and intention brought to the moment. I want you to conduct a small audit of your own time. Think back on one single hour from your day yesterday. It does not have to be a special hour, just a typical one. Now hold it up to the light of this question. Was that hour spent with clear purpose and deliberate action? Or was it lost in a rushed, reactive distraction? Be honest with yourself. Did you choose how to spend that hour, or did the external world choose for you? This is not about guilt, it is about awareness. Every hour you reclaim from the fog of busyness is an hour you return to yourself. It is a brick you lay in the foundation of a life that is not short, but is, as Seneca promised, long enough because you finally know how to use it. In a world that prizes speed, stillness is an act of bravery. This is not the courage of a dramatic charge into battle, but the quiet fortitude to plant your feet when everyone else is scrambling. The Stoics called this virtue Andrea, a form of courage that includes the strength to withstand the immense pressure of social conformity and frantic haste. It is the will to be the calm center of the storm. The Roman statesman Cato the Younger was a living embodiment of this principle. In an era of political corruption and frantic power grabs, Cato was notorious for his deliberate, painstaking slowness. He would read entire documents aloud in the Senate, forcing a rushed body to slow down and actually listen. He would block legislation not with violence, but with exhaustive debate and unyielding principle, refusing to be swept along by the panic or passions of the moment. His enemies accused him of being obstinate, but his power came from this very refusal to rush. He understood that true influence is not found in keeping pace with the mob, but in holding fast to what is right, regardless of the tempo of the crowd. Consider a modern business scenario. A tech company is facing pressure from investors and competitors to launch a new product. The entire team is rushing, cutting corners on testing, and ignoring concerning data in the name of speed. The atmosphere is pure panic. In that room, the most courageous person is not the one shouting the loudest to launch. It is the single leader who stands up and says, "We are not ready." This takes immense courage. It means facing the disappointed looks, the accusations of being a bottleneck, the fear of missing out. But that leader, by choosing deliberate slowness, is not being cowardly. They are exercising Andrea. They are protecting the company's long-term reputation and integrity from the short-term disaster of a rushed, flawed launch. Their stillness in the face of that pressure is the ultimate power move, saving the organization from itself. So I want you to bring to mind one area of your own life where you feel a persistent, subtle peer pressure to hurry. Perhaps it is in your social circle, feeling you need to keep up with a frantic social calendar. Maybe it is at work where the culture rewards fast, sloppy answers over slow, thoughtful ones. Or it could be in your personal goals, where you see others achieving things quickly and feel a gnawing anxiety that you are falling behind. Now, picture what courage would look like in that specific situation. It does not have to be a grand, Cato-like stand. Courage might be the simple act of saying, "I need a night to think about it," instead of giving an immediate answer. It might look like closing your laptop at a reasonable hour despite emails still flying. It might be quietly continuing your own steady, methodical practice while others chase the latest shortcut. Where can you plant your feet, take a deep breath, and choose your own deliberate pace? That is where you will find a strength that haste can never provide. True peace is not found in doing nothing, but in doing the right thing for the right reason at the right pace. This is the Stoic secret to a tranquil mind, a state they called ataraxia. It is not the dead calm of a stagnant pond, but the powerful, directed flow of a deep river. Rushing is a chaotic, scattered energy that frays your nerves and drains your spirit. Intentional action, by contrast, is a calm, focused power that conserves your energy and builds your inner stability. Marcus Aurelius captured this perfectly in his private writings, urging himself to do what is necessary without complaint or avoidance. "See that your actions are not those of a marionette," he wrote. "Let your guiding principle be the logos, the reasoned purpose behind every act. The goal is not to avoid work, but to infuse your work with a clear and purposeful mind." Think of the difference between a harried home cook and a master chef preparing a complex meal. The rushed cook is a whirlwind of chaos. They scramble for ingredients, burn one dish while undercooking another, their mind a frantic checklist of everything going wrong. The kitchen becomes a place of stress, and the meal, when it finally arrives, carries the energy of that struggle. The chef, on the other hand, moves with a deliberate, efficient grace. Every chop, every stir, every seasoning is performed with full attention. There is no wasted motion, no frantic energy. The pace might be brisk, but it is never rushed. It is a dance of intention. The kitchen is a place of focused creation, and the meal is a masterpiece of calm execution. The action is the same, but the quality of attention transforms the experience from a source of anxiety into a source of profound satisfaction. This is the tranquility of intentional action. It is the direct result of refusing to let external pressures dictate your internal rhythm. Tomorrow, I want you to choose just one ordinary task. It could be writing an email, washing the dishes, or even walking to a meeting. Perform that single task not as a box to be checked, but as an exercise in intentional movement. Do it for its own sake, with your full and calm attention. Notice the absence of frantic energy. Notice how the mind settles when it is fully occupied with one clear purpose. How does that shift in pace change your feeling of control? The most powerful people are often the most prepared, which allows them to never need to rush. This is the essence of the Stoic practice known as Premeditatio Malorum, the premeditation of evils. It is not a pessimistic exercise in dwelling on everything that could go wrong. It is a strategic and empowering rehearsal for life's inevitable difficulties. By deliberately envisioning potential challenges in your mind, you drain them of their power to shock you into a panicked, rushed reaction. You have already walked that path in your thoughts, and so when reality presents a version of it, you are not caught off guard. You are meeting an old acquaintance, not a terrifying stranger. Seneca was a master of this. He would regularly set aside time to mentally rehearse future hardships. He would visualize losing his wealth, suffering a grave illness, or even enduring exile. He did this not to make himself afraid, but to accomplish the exact opposite. By facing these possibilities in the safe theater of his mind, he discovered a profound truth. "I have felt in advance whatever can happen," he wrote, "and I have looked down upon all future events from afar." This practice builds a resilience that haste cannot penetrate. When you have already accepted a potential outcome, you no longer need to rush to avoid it or frantically fight against it. Your energy is preserved for thoughtful, deliberate action. Consider a difficult conversation you need to have, perhaps with a colleague or a family member. The rushed approach is to avoid thinking about it until the last possible moment, then walking in unprepared. Your heart races, your words come out in a jumble, and emotion dictates your responses. The conversation becomes a conflict. Now, apply premeditatio. Sit quietly beforehand and mentally walk through the entire discussion. Visualize the other person becoming defensive. Hear yourself responding not with heat, but with calm, clear points. Anticipate their criticisms and prepare your reasoned answers. By the time you actually have the conversation, the terrain is familiar. You are not reacting to surprises. You are navigating a landscape you have already mapped. This thorough preparation makes a rushed, reactive response completely unnecessary. You can afford to be slow and measured because you have done the work in advance. So I want you to try this now. Bring to mind one potential challenge you might face in the coming week. It does not have to be a major crisis. It could be a tight deadline, a stressful social event, or a task you have been avoiding. Close your eyes for just a moment and mentally rehearse it. See yourself moving through that situation not with hurry and anxiety, but with a calm, deliberate focus. How does that foreknowledge change your feeling of readiness? This mental preparation is the quiet work that makes public composure possible. Remembering that you will die is the ultimate reminder to stop wasting your life in a hurry. This Stoic practice, known as Memento Mori, is not a morbid fixation on an end, but a profound tool for reorienting your life toward what is essential. It sharpens your focus on the quality of your time, not merely the quantity of days you might accumulate. Marcus Aurelius wrote to himself, "You could leave life right now." Let that determine what you do and say and think. He was not suggesting a frantic race to accomplish everything. He was issuing a command to live with integrity and purpose in this very moment, to ensure that your current action is worthy of being your last. When you internalize the reality of your own finitude, the trivial urgencies that normally command your attention begin to lose their power. The frantic email, the petty argument, the pressure to constantly be doing more, they all shrink to their true size against the backdrop of a limited life. Imagine two people sitting down to a family dinner. One is physically present but mentally racing, checking their phone under the table, rushing the conversation to get back to a project they believe is urgent. They are trading real connection for a perceived deadline. The other, holding the memento mori in mind, savors the meal. They listen intently to the stories, notice the laughter, and feel the simple joy of being together. They are acutely aware that this moment is a finite gift, and they refuse to rush through it. The dinner is the same, but one person experiences it as a distraction, while the other experiences it as the main event of their day. I want you to try a brief exercise. Take a moment and write down, just for yourself, what you would genuinely do today if you knew it was your last. Would your list be filled with rushed meetings and frantic errands? Or would it contain moments of deep connection, quiet reflection, or purposeful work done with care? Now, look at how you actually plan to spend your hours. Where is the disconnect? This is not about crafting a dramatic final day, but about infusing your ordinary today with the clarity and priority that the remembrance of death uniquely provides. It is the final and perhaps most powerful reason to refuse to rush. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can say is nothing at all. In the frantic dance of conversation, we often feel an irresistible pull to fill every silence, to offer an opinion the moment a question is asked. This verbal rushing is a subtle but significant leak of your power. The Stoics understood that true self-control extends to our speech. We are the owners of our words, and a wise owner does not spend their currency frivolously. Zeno of Citium, the very founder of Stoicism, offered a simple anatomical observation to explain this profound principle. He noted that we have been given 2 ears and 1 mouth so that we may listen twice as much as we speak. This is not just a quaint saying, it is a practical blueprint for influence and understanding. When you rush to speak, you are often just waiting for your turn to talk, rehearsing your own response instead of truly absorbing what is being said. Your words become reactive, defensive, or simply unnecessary. But when you deliberately withhold your speech, you create a space of immense power. Consider a tense negotiation or a disagreement. The person who feels compelled to immediately counter every point, to fill every moment of quiet with their own voice, often appears anxious and insecure. They are trying to dominate with volume and speed. Meanwhile, the person who can comfortably sit in the silence, who listens completely and then takes a measured pause before responding, projects an aura of unshakable calm. That silence is not empty, it is heavy with thought. It communicates that your words are considered and valuable, that they are not cheap reactions to be given away lightly. The other person begins to lean into your silence, eager to hear what you have to say, because you have demonstrated that it will be worth the wait. This practice transforms the dynamic entirely. You are no longer a participant in a shouting match, but a calm observer who chooses their interventions with precision. I challenge you to a simple but profound exercise. In your very next conversation, make a conscious effort to pause. After the other person finishes speaking, consciously count to 3 in your head before you offer your reply. In those 3 seconds of silence, you are not being rude. You are honoring their words with consideration and gifting yourself the space to respond from a place of reason, not from a place of rushed emotion. Notice how that small pocket of stillness changes the entire tone of the exchange. An oak tree does not rush to become great. It grows steadily according to its nature. This is the profound lesson the Stoics drew from the natural world. They observed a universe governed not by frantic haste, but by patient, cyclical rhythms. Marcus Aurelius constantly reminded himself to look at the stars, the planets, the changing seasons, and see a perfect, rational order. He wrote that we should accept everything which happens, even if it seems troublesome, because it leads to the health of the universe. This health is maintained by a timing that is never rushed and never late. Our modern world, with its artificial deadlines and manufactured urgency, operates in direct opposition to this cosmic pace. We try to force summer in the middle of winter and then wonder why we feel so exhausted and out of sync. Aligning with nature's tempo is not about being unambitious. It is about building success that is deep-rooted and sustainable rather than shallow and brittle. Consider 2 different approaches to building a business. One startup chases explosive, viral growth. It burns through capital to acquire users at any cost, pressures its team with impossible deadlines, and prioritizes speed over a solid foundation. This is forced growth, and like a plant forced in a hothouse, it often collapses at the first sign of real challenge. Contrast this with an enterprise built on strong fundamentals. It focuses on creating genuine value, nurturing its team, and refining its product with deliberate care. Its growth may be slower, more like the oak tree, but each ring added to its trunk represents a year of solid, resilient development. When the economic climate turns harsh, the first company is easily uprooted, while the second stands firm, its strength forged in patience. This week, find one natural process to quietly observe. It could be the slow, inevitable crawl of a sunrise, the patient rhythm of the ocean tides, or even the way a plant turns toward the light. Do not just look at it, try to feel its unhurried rhythm. Notice the utter absence of anxiety in its progression. How might your own life begin to change if you allowed your internal clock to synchronize with that ancient, dependable pace? The Stoics believed in getting comfortable with being uncomfortable. This is the training ground for patience. They called this practice voluntary discomfort, and it is a direct workout for your resilience against the panic of haste. When you are accustomed to a baseline of constant comfort, any delay, any obstacle, any minor inconvenience feels like a crisis that must be rushed through and resolved immediately. Your tolerance for unease becomes so low that you will sacrifice your peace just to get back to that comfortable state a few seconds faster. But by deliberately choosing small, manageable hardships, you build a kind of emotional callus. You prove to yourself that you can endure discomfort and even thrive within it, which makes the forced discomfort of a slow line or a traffic jam feel trivial by comparison. The Stoic teacher Musonius Rufus was adamant about this. He taught that we should regularly practice poverty by choosing to go without some of the things we possess, so that if ever we are forced to go without them, it will not be a terrible shock. He was not promoting asceticism for its own sake, but as a form of mental vaccination. By exposing yourself to a small dose of hardship, you build antibodies against the fear of it. Seneca echoed this, writing that we should set aside certain days each month to put on poor clothing and sleep on a hard bed, to train ourselves to desire nothing more than what we already have. This practice rewires your relationship with want. When you are no longer desperate to avoid every minor discomfort, the power of external circumstances to rush you completely evaporates. You can start with something as simple as choosing the longest line at the grocery store. Instead of scanning for the fastest checkout, you deliberately walk to the one that is moving slowly. You stand there and you feel the initial impulse to fidget, to sigh, to check your phone in agitation. But then you remember this is your training. You take a breath and just stand. You observe the people around you. You notice the colors on the packaging. You allow the moment to be exactly what it is without needing to fight it. That small, voluntary act is like a single rep for your patience muscle. It teaches you that a few minutes of delay are not an emergency, and that your peace is far more valuable than the time you might save. So I invite you to choose one small, voluntary discomfort to practice this week. It could be taking a slightly cooler shower, turning off the entertainment while you eat a meal, or walking a longer route home. The goal is not to punish yourself, but to build your capacity for calm endurance. What tiny hardship can you invite into your life to remind yourself that you are stronger than any inconvenience? How many of your deadlines are real, and how many are just stories you are telling yourself? This is the critical question that Stoicism invites you to ask, a question that begins to dismantle the entire illusion of urgency. Epictetus offered a timeless formula when he said that men are disturbed not by things, but by the views they take of them. The deadline itself is a neutral fact, a date on a calendar. The frantic panic, the racing heart, the sleepless night, those are not caused by the date. They are caused by the judgment you have attached to it, a story you have written about what missing that date would mean. You have transformed a simple timeline into a catastrophe in the making. Most of the time, the emergency exists only in the theater of your own mind, a production you are directing, starring yourself as the victim of a crisis. This is not to say that deadlines are unimportant. It is to say that your relationship to them is often the real source of your suffering. The urgent task is not the problem. Your perception of its urgency is, take a common work crisis like a last-minute request from a client for a major revision. The initial, unchecked view screams that this is a 5-alarm fire. Your reputation is on the line, the client will be furious, the project will fail. This story creates a physical rush of adrenaline, forcing you into a frantic, sloppy hurry. But if you apply the Stoic test of reason, you pause the production, you interrogate the script. Is it true that the client will be furious if you communicate clearly and set a reasonable new timeline? Is it true that the project will fail if you take an extra day to do the work properly? Or is the more likely truth that a well-executed revision delivered calmly in 48 hours is far better than a rushed, error-filled version delivered in 24? The consequence of taking more time is often not the disaster you imagine, but a better outcome and a preserved sense of peace. So I want you to try this now. Bring to mind your top 3 current urgent tasks. Now, for each one, write down the absolute worst thing that would actually happen if you gave yourself more breathing room. Not the scary story your anxiety tells you, but the realistic, probable consequence. Would you receive a mildly annoyed email? Would you have to apologize for a slight delay? Or would the world genuinely end? When you hold these consequences up to the light, you will likely find that most of your emergencies are self-imposed, phantoms of perception that lose their power the moment you stop believing in them. The Stoics had a counterintuitive practice to cure haste, imagining everything going wrong. This is the Premeditatio Malorum, the Premeditation of Evils, and it works by confronting the very source of our panic. The fear of a negative outcome creates a frantic energy inside us, a desperate need to rush and control events to avoid that dreaded future. But what if you could disarm that fear before it ever takes hold? Seneca powerfully advised his friend Lucilius to spend time each day anticipating the potential loss of his wealth, his status, even his life. He was not fostering pessimism, but engineering a profound sense of security. By willingly visiting the worst-case scenario in your mind, you discover a life-altering truth. You can endure it. The monster in the shadows loses its power the moment you shine the light of your reason upon it. Think about a high-stakes presentation you have to deliver. The rushed approach is to avoid thinking about the possibility of failure. You cram at the last minute, your mind buzzing with anxious what-ifs, and you walk into the room already on the defensive. Now apply the premeditatio. Sit down the day before and deliberately visualize it going poorly. See the audience with skeptical faces. Hear your own voice stumbling over a key point. Feel the heat of embarrassment. Then, and this is the crucial step, watch yourself survive it. You finish the presentation. The world does not end. You take a breath, you learn from the experience, and you move forward. Having mentally accepted this outcome, the sharp edge of your fear is dulled. You can now prepare not from a place of panic, but from a place of calm, thorough readiness. You focus on crafting a clearer message and anticipating tough questions, not because you are afraid, but because you are prepared. I want you to try this right now. Bring to mind a specific outcome you are anxious about, something that makes you feel rushed. For the next 2 minutes, close your eyes and let the worst-case scenario play out in your mind. Do not fight it. Go through the entire sequence and then notice yourself still standing on the other side. When you open your eyes, observe the subtle shift. The urgency has lost its grip, replaced by the quiet confidence that comes from having already faced the storm. You can always make more money, but you can never make more time. How are you spending yours? This question is the bedrock of the Stoic view on time, a perspective that transforms it from a relentless master into a precious resource to be managed with reverence. For the Stoic, time is the one truly non-renewable asset of your life. Rushing through it, or worse, killing it through distraction, is the ultimate form of waste. It is like taking a priceless, one-of-a-kind painting and using it as a drop cloth. Seneca saw this with devastating clarity. In his essay on the shortness of life, he laments that people are excellent guardians of their property, but when it comes to time, they are shockingly poor stewards. They allow the most valuable thing of all to be stolen from under their noses by anyone who asks for a moment. We would be outraged if a stranger walked in and took a handful of cash from our wallet, yet we hand over hours of our life to mindless scrolling, trivial complaints, and tasks we perform with half our attention. This is not living. It is allowing your life to leak away, one rushed and discarded moment at a time. Think about the common phrase, killing time. We say it so casually, as if time were an enemy to be defeated or a burden to be endured. But what are we really killing? We are extinguishing the very substance of our existence, the finite collection of moments that is our one and only life. The Stoic alternative is to become a respectful guardian of your hours. This does not mean filling every second with frantic productivity. It means infusing your time with intention, whether that intention is focused work, deep rest, or genuine connection. The value is in the quality of your attention, not the quantity of your actions. Consider two different uses of a single free hour. One person spends it scrolling through a social media feed, their thumb moving almost automatically. The content is a blur of outrage and envy, and when the hour is up, they feel drained, agitated, and can recall nothing of substance. They have successfully killed 60 minutes. Another person spends that same hour working on a single, meaningful hobby, like learning to play a song on the guitar. They are fully present with each clumsy chord change, their mind engaged in the challenge. When the hour is up, they feel a sense of accomplishment and calm. They have not killed time. they have invested it in themselves, adding a small layer of skill and satisfaction to their life. The hour was identical on the clock, but its value was determined entirely by the consciousness brought to it. Now, I want you to perform a sobering but powerful calculation. Let us assume you live a long life to the age of 80. Take that number and subtract your current age. Multiply that by 365 days. Now consider how many of those remaining days are truly yours to direct, free from essential obligations. The number is always smaller than we imagine. When you look at that figure, does the idea of rushing through any of those precious days still make sense? Does spending one of them in a state of frantic anxiety over things you cannot control seem like a wise investment? This calculation is not meant to frighten you, but to clarify you. It is a memento mori applied to your schedule. It reveals the staggering cost of hurry. Every rushed moment is a payment of your life for a result that haste often ruins. So I ask you again, with the weight of that number in mind, you can always make more money, but you can never make more time. How will you choose to spend your next hour? Patience isn't just waiting, it's the fertile ground in which wisdom grows. A mind that is rushing is like a turbulent, muddy river. It can only reflect a distorted, chaotic version of reality. Wisdom, the first and guiding Stoic virtue, requires a surface of calm clarity to see things as they truly are. It needs the space to deliberate, to weigh options, and to gain perspective. Without the deliberate slowness that patience provides, our judgment is inevitably clouded by the very urgency we feel. This is why the Stoics saw the four cardinal virtues not as separate skills, but as a single, interwoven system. Wisdom is the ability to make the right judgment. Courage is the strength to act on it. Justice is the will to do so fairly for the common good, and temperance is the self-control to act within proper limits. Patience is the thread that binds them all together. It is the courage to withstand the pressure for a quick answer. It is the temperance to restrain your impulse to react immediately. And it is this combination that allows for the wise and just outcome to finally reveal itself. Consider the image of two judges presiding over the same complex case. The first judge feels public pressure for a swift verdict. They rush through the evidence, form a quick opinion based on a compelling first impression, and gavel down a decision. The verdict is fast, but it is brittle. It may overlook a crucial detail buried in the testimony, a detail that changes everything. The second judge embodies Stoic patience. They understand that true justice cannot be rushed. They sit calmly through lengthy, tedious testimonies. They review documents with meticulous care, refusing to be swayed by emotion or external pressure. This judge's slowness is not indecision. It is a profound respect for the gravity of their task. The verdict they reach is not just a decision, but a true judgment built on the solid foundation of patient deliberation. The first judge delivered speed, the second delivered wisdom. Now, bring to mind a decision from your own past, one made in a rush of impatience. Perhaps you hastily sent an angry email, or you made a significant purchase without proper research, or you ended a relationship in a heated moment. Look back at that crossroads. Which virtue was missing in that moment? Was it the courage to tolerate the discomfort of not having an immediate answer? Was it the temperance to hold your tongue and your impulse? Without those, the clear-eyed vision of wisdom never had a chance to surface. That poor outcome was not just bad luck. It was the direct and predictable result of a virtue-starved process. Every time you choose patience, you are not just waiting. You are actively cultivating the conditions for a wiser you to step forward. The modern world demands you do 10 things at once. The Stoics demand you do one thing well. This is the heart of monotasking, a practice that stands in direct opposition to the frantic pace we have accepted as normal. It is the disciplined application of your attention to a single point, giving the task in front of you the same reverence a craftsman gives to a single piece of wood. The Stoics framed this as your duty or kathakonta. It is your moral obligation to perform each action, no matter how small, with your complete and undivided presence. To do otherwise is to disrespect the action itself and the potential for excellence it contains. You are not just checking a box, you are fulfilling a purpose with the full force of your being. Emperor Marcus Aurelius constantly drilled this into his own mind. He wrote, "Concentrate every minute like a Roman on doing what's in front of you with precise and genuine seriousness." That is the standard, not to get it done, but to do it right with your entire soul invested in the process. He was reminding himself that true power is not demonstrated by how many plates you can spin, but by your ability to hold one plate with perfect, steady balance. Think about your own typical work session. Your email is open, pinging with notifications. Your phone buzzes with messages. You have 3 different projects in various states of completion, and you are frantically jumping between them all. This is not productivity. It is a state of continuous interruption, a fractured attention that guarantees shallow work and mental exhaustion. Your mind is a battlefield of competing demands, and you feel rushed because you are never truly finishing anything. You are just switching contexts. Now picture the alternative. You close every unnecessary tab. You silence your phone and place it in another room. For 1 single hour, your entire world is that report you need to write. You are not thinking about the next task. You are fully immersed in the structure of a sentence, the clarity of an argument, the flow of your thoughts. The frantic energy vanishes, replaced by a deep, rhythmic focus. The work is not only completed with higher quality, but you finish feeling clear and composed, not drained and scattered. The task received your full power, and in return, it gave you a piece of your peace back. I challenge you to a simple experiment. Tomorrow, block out 1 single, sacred hour for a single, important task. Remove every possible distraction beforehand. For that 1 hour, let your entire universe shrink to the dimensions of that one activity. Do not rush it. Do not fight it. Simply give it your complete attention. When the hour is over, take a moment to notice the quality of the work you produced, but more importantly, notice the quality of your own mind. The ego rushes because it believes the world cannot function without its immediate input. Humility knows better. This frantic need to be at the center of every action is a heavy burden to carry, one that Stoicism gently lifts from your shoulders. The practice of humility is not about thinking less of yourself, but about thinking of yourself less, understanding your small but purposeful place within a vast and ancient cosmos. This perspective is the ultimate antidote to the self-important panic that fuels our haste. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this theme in his private meditations, urging himself to view his life from a higher vantage point. Look at the infinite abyss of time behind you and the other infinity ahead, he wrote. In this vast expanse, what is the legacy of even the most famous man? It is a fleeting whisper. He was not diminishing his own life's work, but contextualizing it. When you grasp the sheer scale of the universe and the endless march of time, the urgency of your next email or your next meeting begins to feel comically insignificant. This realization is not depressing, it is profoundly liberating. Your ego screams that everything depends on your immediate reaction, but the cosmos whispers that it does not. This humility grants you the spaciousness to breathe, to think, and to act with intention. Consider the difference between 2 leaders. One is a CEO whose ego is tightly wound into the company's daily operations. They believe that every decision, no matter how small, requires their personal touch and immediate approval. They rush from meeting to meeting, interrupt their team's workflow with frantic demands, and create an atmosphere of perpetual crisis. Their company moves quickly but in a chaotic, unsustainable lurch, entirely dependent on one person's frantic energy. The other CEO practices stoic humility. They have a clear vision and trust their capable team to execute it. They understand that their unique role is not to do everything, but to ensure the right things are done. They are strategically slow, reserving their energy for the most critical decisions. Their company may not seem as frenetically active from the inside, but it moves with the powerful, steady momentum of a deep ocean current, unaffected by the surface storms. This leader is free from the self-imposed tyranny of micromanagement, and their entire organization thrives because of it. So I want you to bring to mind one specific situation in your own life where you feel that insistent, gnawing pressure to hurry. Look closely at that feeling. Is the urgency real, or is it your ego whispering that you are too important to wait, that things will fall apart without your constant, immediate involvement? What would happen if, just for once, you trusted the process, trusted the people around you, or simply trusted the flow of time itself? Humility is the quiet courage to let the world turn without your hand forcing it. The most powerful move of your day might be the 5 minutes you spend doing absolutely nothing. This is the contemplative pause, a daily ritual that builds a fortress of calm against the constant siege of urgency. It is a modern application of a core Stoic practice, the morning and evening meditation, a deliberate habit of stopping to align your actions with your principles before the world has a chance to pull you into its frantic current. Seneca wrote extensively about his own evening review, a quiet time where he would examine the entire landscape of his day. He would ask himself probing questions. What bad habit have you cured today? What fault have you resisted? In what way are you better? This was not an exercise in self-criticism, but in conscious realignment. He was taking the helm of his own character, steering it back on course after a day of navigating the unpredictable seas of life. He was institutionalizing the refusal to rush through his own moral and mental development. You can adopt this practice in a simple 5-minute form. Find a quiet space and sit in silence. Begin by reviewing the intentions you set for your day, or if it is the morning, set a clear intention for the hours ahead. Then just observe your mental state without any judgment. Are you feeling rushed, anxious, scattered? Do not try to fix it. Simply notice it with the detached curiosity of a scientist observing a natural phenomenon. This act of non-judgmental observation is itself a profound power move. It creates a small pocket of space between you and your reactions, reminding you that you are not your rushing thoughts. You are the awareness watching them. Tomorrow, I want you to schedule a single 5-minute contemplative pause. Place it at a natural transition point in your day, perhaps right after you arrive home from work or just before you begin your evening routine. Set a timer if you must. For those 5 minutes, your only job is to sit and be present with yourself. Do not check your phone. Do not plan your next move. Just breathe and observe. This small, consistent investment in stillness will compound into a remarkable dividend of clarity, giving you the unshakable foundation from which you can finally choose your pace instead of having it chosen for you. Will this frantic urgency matter in 5 years, or even cross your mind on your final day? The daily pressures that command your immediate attention and haste often vanish when viewed from the distance of a lifetime. This is the power of the Stoic view from above, a mental exercise Marcus Aurelius practiced to rise above the noisy drama of the present moment. He would visualize the entire sweep of human history, seeing the endless rise and fall of empires, the countless generations who lived and died with their own urgent worries. From that cosmic vantage point, his own struggles for recognition or his irritation at a minor delay would shrink to their true, minuscule size. He was training himself to think in terms of a life, not just a day. This macro perspective does not make your current work unimportant. It simply reorders your priorities, placing the temporary urgency of a deadline beneath the enduring importance of your character, your health, and your deepest relationships. Consider the visceral anxiety of a missed email or a critical comment online. In the heated rush of the moment, it feels like a 5-alarm fire demanding an immediate, panicked response. You sacrifice your peace to put it out. Now project yourself forward to the age of 80, sitting in a quiet room reflecting on your life. From that chair with the weight of decades behind you, will you even remember that specific email? Will you cherish the time you spent crafting a furious reply, or will your thoughts linger on the quality of the friendships you nurtured, the integrity you maintained in difficult moments, the quiet evenings of contentment you allowed yourself to experience? The view from above reveals that we consistently rush toward the trivial at the expense of the eternal. I want you to try this exercise right now. Take a piece of paper and write down one single thing you are currently rushing about. It could be a project at work, a social obligation, or a personal goal that feels unbearably urgent. Now, beneath it, write a single sentence from the perspective of your 80-year-old self, looking back on this very situation. What would that older, wiser you have to say about the importance of your hurry? That sentence, born from a lifetime of perspective, holds a truth that your present panic cannot see. The secret to a slower, more powerful life might be to simply want less. This is the heart of the Stoic discipline of desire, a practice that directly targets the engine of our rushing. Every frantic sprint is usually fueled by an insatiable want for more money, for greater recognition, for a better situation. We hurry because we believe that just over the next hill lies the satisfaction we crave. But the ancient teacher Epictetus offered a devastatingly simple counterpoint. He taught that freedom is not secured by fulfilling your desires, but by controlling and reducing them. Your chains are forged not by what you lack, but by what you desperately feel you must have. When your happiness is contingent on acquiring something you do not yet possess, you hand over the reins of your inner peace to the whims of the external world, and you will rush endlessly to try and secure it. Consider two different paths. One person is on the relentless treadmill of more. They are constantly chasing the next promotion, the bigger house, the newer car. Each achievement brings a fleeting high, quickly replaced by the anxiety of wanting the next thing. Their life is a state of perpetual motion, a hurried scramble up a ladder that never seems to reach the top. They are not living, they are chasing. Now picture someone who has practiced the discipline of desire. They have carefully examined what is truly necessary for a good life, health, meaningful work, genuine connection. They are ambitious, but their ambition is directed by virtue, not by a bottomless hunger for more. They find deep satisfaction in the work itself, in the quality of their relationships, in the quiet sufficiency of a well-lived day. Their pace is not sluggish, but it is purposeful and calm. They are not rushing because they are not desperately trying to fill a void with external things. Their power comes from a profound sense of enough. I want you to try a brief but revealing exercise. Take a moment and write down 3 things you intensely desire right now. Be honest, it could be a specific career milestone, a particular possession, or a certain lifestyle. Now, for each one, ask yourself this piercing question. If I obtained this, would it bring me lasting peace, or would it simply open the door to a new, more sophisticated desire? The answer is often the latter. This is not a call to abandon ambition, but to refine it. By moderating our wants, we disarm the internal compulsion that makes every moment feel like an emergency. We slow down because we are no longer running from the phantom of insufficiency. In a room full of panicked people, the calmest person is the most powerful. This is not a matter of rank or title, but a fundamental law of human psychology. Your refusal to rush does more than protect your own peace. It radiates outward, creating a sanctuary of stability for everyone around you. The Stoics called this oikeiosis, the recognition that we are inherently social beings designed for community, and our highest purpose is to be a benefit to others. By mastering your own internal tempo, you become a living anchor in the storm for your team, your family, and your friends. The Stoic ideal of the sophos, the wise person, is someone who remains so undisturbed by external chaos that they can clearly see the path forward and calmly guide others toward it. They understand that a leader's primary tool is not a loud voice but a quiet mind. Consider a high-pressure crisis meeting. The project is behind schedule, the client is furious, and the room is electric with anxiety. Everyone is talking over each other, proposing frantic, half-baked solutions. Then one person remains silent, listening. When they finally speak, their voice is measured, their words are deliberate. They do not offer a quick fix, but they reframe the problem with stunning clarity. They ask, what is within our control right now? What is the very next smallest step we can take? Their composure is contagious. The frantic energy in the room begins to settle. Shoulders relax, breaths deepen, and the group's collective mind shifts from panic to problem solving. That single individual, by simply refusing to participate in the rush, transformed the entire dynamic. They did not need a formal title to lead. They led with their calm. Your own state is a powerful social instrument. I encourage you to become a quiet observer of this today. In your next interaction, whether it is with a coworker, your partner, or your child, notice the exchange of emotional energy. If you enter a conversation rushed and agitated, see how it puts the other person on edge. But if you consciously choose to ground yourself, to speak slowly and listen fully, watch how it gives them permission to relax, to feel heard, to think more clearly. Your calm is not a solitary practice, it is a gift you give to your entire world. The Stoics saw the cosmos as a perfectly ordered, rational system. Fighting its pace is like swimming against a current. They called this underlying intelligence the logos, a divine reason that orchestrates everything from the motion of the planets to the growth of a single blade of grass. This was not a vague spiritual idea, but a practical foundation for living. To align with the logos is to trust the inherent timing and process of events, to believe that the universe unfolds with a rhythm that our frantic haste only disrupts. The philosopher Cleans, in his beautiful hymn to Zeus, praises this guiding force, writing that nothing occurs on earth without you, nor in the divine sky, nor on the sea, except what bad men do in their own foolishness. The key insight is that our rushing is a form of that foolishness, a futile rebellion against a current far more powerful than our individual will. Marcus Aurelius constantly returned to this theme, reminding himself to accept everything which happens, even if it seems troublesome, because it leads to the health of the universe. His frustration at a delay was not just an inconvenience, it was a failure to see his small moment as part of a vast, rational whole. Consider a river flowing steadily toward the sea. You are in that river, you have two choices. You can exhaust yourself by thrashing against the current, fighting to go upstream, or struggling to reach the bank faster than the water will carry you. This is the essence of rushing, a desperate attempt to overpower a force of nature with your own limited strength. Or you can relax into the flow, orient yourself with purpose, and use the river's own power to guide you forward. You will still need to steer to avoid rocks and navigate turns, but your movement becomes an effortless cooperation with a greater power. This is what it means to align with the logos. Your effort is not removed, but it is transformed from a frantic struggle into a purposeful navigation. Where in your own life are you currently swimming against the current? Is it in a relationship you are trying to force, a career milestone you are desperately chasing, or a personal goal you are white-knuckling into existence? Now ask the more profound question: what would it look like to stop thrashing, to trust the flow of that situation? It does not mean giving up or being passive. It means shifting your energy from forcing an outcome to understanding the process and finding the most intelligent, harmonious way to move within it. The fastest way to slow down is to stop and count your blessings. A mind fixated on what it lacks is a mind condemned to a future of frantic chasing. It is always leaning forward, desperate for the next acquisition, the next milestone, the next sign of approval. This is the engine of rushing, but gratitude, in the Stoic sense, is the deliberate act of shifting your gaze from the horizon to the ground beneath your feet. It is the practice of acknowledging the abundance that already exists in your present moment. A grateful mind has no need to rush because it recognizes that the treasure is not in some distant land, but right here in your hands. The Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius began his private journal, his meditations, not with grand ambitions, but with a long and detailed list of gratitude. He methodically thanked his grandfather for his good character, his father for his reputation, his mother for her piety, his brother for his respect, and his teachers for their guidance. He was not just listing nice qualities. He was actively training his mind to see the web of support and fortune that had shaped his life, to anchor himself in the reality of his present blessings rather than the phantom of future wants. This practice grounds you with an unshakable weight. When you are truly aware of what you have, the frantic energy to acquire more simply loses its power. You are already full. Try this simple 60-second ritual before your next meal. Before you take the first bite, put down your fork. Silently appreciate the food on your plate, considering the chain of events and labor that brought it to you. Think of the sun and rain that grew it, the hands that harvested it, the person who prepared it. Acknowledge the simple miracle of having this moment of peace and nourishment. In that brief pause, you are not rushing. You are fully present, and the entire meal becomes a different experience, a small island of calm in a rushing river. To build this into your life, I encourage you to start or end your day with a pen and a small notebook. Write down 3 specific things you are grateful for. They do not need to be grand. The warmth of your coffee mug, the sound of rain against the window, a single sentence of kindness from a stranger. The specificity is what matters. It forces your mind to search for the small, concrete beauties that a rushing mind blindly overlooks. What 3 simple gifts will you acknowledge before this day is done? The race only ends when you decide you have run far enough. In a world that constantly pushes for more, this is the ultimate act of defiance. The Stoic concept of enough is not about settling for less, but about intelligently defining your own finish line for success, wealth, and achievement. When you know your personal limit, you are instantly liberated from the exhausting treadmill of comparison and frantic haste. You stop running a race designed by someone else and finally begin walking your own path at your own pace. Seneca captured this with piercing clarity in his letters, arguing that wealth beyond what nature needs is not a blessing, but a weight. He observed that increasing one's possessions only increases the avenues for anxiety. A person who constantly multiplies their wealth is like a thirsty man who drinks seawater, only intensifying his torment. True wealth for the Stoic is not having everything you want, but wanting everything you have. This internal shift redefines the entire purpose of your striving. Consider two professionals on seemingly similar career paths. The first is perpetually chasing the next promotion, the larger title, the bigger office. Each achievement is quickly dismissed as the starting gun for the next, more grueling lap. Their life is a blur of rushed deadlines, networking events, and sleepless nights, all fueled by the fear that they are not doing enough, not being enough. They are running a race with no finish line, and their exhaustion is the price of admission. The second professional reaches a role that is challenging, fulfilling, and provides for their needs. They consciously decide this is enough. This does not mean they stop growing or contributing with excellence. It means they redirect their energy from a frantic upward climb to a deep, purposeful engagement with their work and, crucially, their life outside of it. They leave on time, they nurture their relationships, they pursue hobbies that feed their soul. Their success is not measured by a title, but by the quality and tranquility of their days. Which of these two lives embodies true power? Now, bring this home to your own world. I want you to choose one key area of your life, perhaps your income, your possessions, or your professional status. Quietly ask yourself, what does enough genuinely look like for me in this area? Not the number society tells you to aim for, but the point where your real needs are met and your mind can be at peace. Defining that line is not an act of limitation. It is the first and most powerful step toward a freedom that endless more can never provide. The art of being powerful is not just knowing what to do, but what you can confidently leave undone. This selective ignorance is a profound Stoic discipline, a deliberate filtering of the world's noise so you can hear the quiet signal of your own purpose. We often rush because we are trying to do everything, please everyone, and react to every demand placed upon us. This scatters your energy and fractures your attention, leaving you perpetually busy but never truly effective. The Stoics called this focus on the essential, your ruling principle, your hegemonikon. It is the core of your mind that judges what is good, what is bad, and what is simply irrelevant. Marcus Aurelius constantly drilled this into his own thinking, writing that you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. He specifically advised himself to discard your opinion of the mob, and you will be rid of your annoyance. The mob is not just a crowd of people. It is the collective weight of trivial demands, distracting opinions, and false urgencies that pull you from your path. Your power lies in your ability to declare most of it none of your business. Consider a senior executive whose inbox receives hundreds of emails daily. The rushed, reactive approach is to treat every single one as an emergency, to live in a state of perpetual response, letting other people's agendas dictate their entire day. But the executive who has mastered this Stoic principle operates differently. They have clearly defined their core mission and their key responsibilities. They scan their inbox not with anxiety, but with a calm, discerning eye. They confidently ignore or delegate the 90% of messages that are merely noise, the forwarded articles, the meeting invites for topics outside their purview, the low-priority requests. They focus their entire intellectual and creative capacity on the 10% that genuinely moves the company's mission forward. They are not being lazy or negligent. They are exercising supreme strategic judgment, understanding that their most valuable resource is their focused attention, and they refuse to rush it on trivialities. This week, I want you to perform a simple but radical act of curation. Take a moment and list 3 things you will consciously choose to ignore or deprioritize. It could be the constant checking of a particular social media feed, the feeling that you must immediately respond to every non-urgent text message, or a minor task that has been creating a false sense of urgency. By writing these down, you are not just making a to-don't list, you are actively reclaiming your mental space from the tyranny of the trivial. What 3 distractions will you confidently leave undone to preserve your peace and power? Your mind moves at the speed of your body. To slow your thoughts, first slow your footsteps. This is not just a poetic idea, it is a physiological reality the Stoics understood intimately. They viewed the body not as a separate entity, but as the vessel and instrument of the rational mind, your hegemonicon. A frenzied, rushed physical state creates static in the system, making clear thought nearly impossible. But a body moving with deliberate slowness sends a constant, calming signal back to the mind, grounding your thoughts in the present reality. The Roman teacher Musonius Rufus was particularly vocal about this connection. He argued that physical training was absolutely essential for a philosopher, not to build a warrior's body, but to develop the endurance and self-control required for a virtuous life. He taught that a neglected body becomes a source of distraction and discomfort, pulling the mind away from its higher purpose. A body conditioned by discipline, however, becomes a reliable and steady partner to a reasoned will. Think of the last time you had to deliver important news while out of breath from running. Your words were likely rushed, your thoughts scattered, your composure fractured. Now picture explaining the same news while sitting calmly in a quiet room. The difference in your mental clarity and emotional control is profound, and it is generated by the state of your body. This is the power you can harness every single day. I want you to try a simple but transformative practice. Commit to a daily 10-minute walk, but with one crucial rule. This is not for exercise or for getting somewhere. This walk has no destination. Its sole purpose is to move slowly and pay attention. Feel the soles of your feet connecting with the ground, the rhythm of your breath, the air against your skin. When your mind inevitably darts ahead to your to-do list, gently guide it back to the sensation of your next step. This is a moving meditation, a direct training in synchronizing your physical pace with your mental state. For a deeper practice, I challenge you to eat one meal this week with absolute deliberateness. Choose a meal you can eat alone without any screens. Chew each bite thoroughly, perhaps 20 or 30 times, until the food is practically liquid. Between bites, consciously set your utensil down on the table. Place your hands in your lap. Breathe. This will feel agonizingly slow at first because you are breaking the autopilot of consumption. But in that slowness, you will rediscover the taste of your food, the simple act of nourishment, and a pocket of mental space that hurry had stolen from you. How might this physical discipline begin to quiet the internal noise? How do you want to be remembered? As a blur of activity, or as a person of profound presence and purpose? This final question brings us to the ultimate reward for a life that refuses to rush, a legacy of integrity. Your impact on the world is not measured by the sheer volume of your actions, but by the depth and intention behind each one. A frantic life scattered across 1,000 distractions leaves little more than a faint echo. A deliberate life built moment by conscious moment leaves an indelible mark. It is the difference between a handful of sand tossed into the wind and a single, carefully carved stone placed firmly in the ground. The Stoic teacher Epictetus offered a simple, unshakable truth when he said that your character is your fate. Your character is not forged in a single, dramatic instant. It is built brick by brick through the countless small choices you make when no one is watching. It is the patience you practice in a long line, the thoughtful pause before you speak in anger, the quiet decision to do one thing well instead of 10 things poorly. This is the legacy you are constructing every single day with every single action. Consider the two leaders. One is a whirlwind of reactive energy, constantly putting out fires, chasing the latest trend, and making snap decisions based on pressure. Their team is perpetually off balance, and while things may get done quickly, they are often done poorly and without a unifying vision. When this leader moves on, what remains? A trail of half-finished projects and a culture of anxiety. Now picture the leader who moves with stoic deliberation. They are not slow, but they are steady. They listen more than they speak. They make decisions based on principle, not panic. They invest in their people and their processes, building systems that outlast their own involvement. Their legacy is not just what they accomplished, but the strong, capable, and calm organization they leave behind. Their influence endures because it was built on the solid foundation of consistent, thoughtful action. So I leave you with one final practical task. Take out a pen and a single piece of paper. At the top, write this question: what is the one-sentence legacy I am building with my daily habits? Be brutally honest with your answer. Does that sentence speak of hurried reactions and scattered focus, or does it describe a life of purposeful presence and unwavering principle? This sentence is not set in stone. It is being written by you right now, with the very next breath you take and the next choice you make. The frantic pace of modern life is a choice, not a command. Every time you refuse to rush, you are not falling behind, you are reclaiming your sovereignty. This is the ultimate application of Stoic wisdom, a deliberate cultivation of inner power that leads to superior judgment and a life of profound meaning. We have journeyed through the core practices that make this possible, starting with the foundational dichotomy of control, which teaches us to pour our energy only into what is truly ours to command. We explored the power of presence, of anchoring yourself in the single moment you are living, and the radical acceptance of Amor, Fati, learning to love every obstacle as fuel for your growth. We have seen how a disciplined relationship with time, treating it as your most precious and finite resource, transforms busyness into purpose. This is not a philosophy of inaction, but of supremely intentional action. Marcus Aurelius left us with a perfect thought to carry forward, writing, "Accept the present moment in its entirety, and be content with what nature has willed, for the present moment is as it should be." The perfection is not in the circumstance, but in your full and conscious engagement with it. So now, the most important step is yours. Look back over these principles and choose just one to practice with intention in the coming week. Will it be inserting a deliberate pause before you react? Will it be performing a single task with your complete and undivided attention? Your journey toward a life of calm power begins with that single, conscious choice. If this path resonates with you, subscribe to this channel for more guides on living a Stoic life. And we would be honored to hear from you, so please share in the comments which principle you are choosing to practice and what you discover when you finally slow down.